Okay, well, it's great to have the opportunity to talk to you today. Um, my name is Mel. I am part of the membership team at Advance HE. And Steve asked me some time ago, actually before lockdown, I think it was, to come along today and talk to you about aspects of membership and fellowship, with a particular emphasis on fellowship of the Academy. And I've got a little rider which I'll come to, because I know some of you, having looked at the people who are in the network, some of you will already know some of this. So I'll kind of put my apologies in first when we get there. Okay, I'm just going to go through a few slides. I'm going to talk a bit about Advance HE, not in any huge detail, because there is more in this presentation that you can read later if you're interested in the kind of wider membership resources and services. But I'm going to talk specifically about fellowship. Some of you may not know about that, so I'm going to go into a little bit of just very briefly about the background to Advance HE, in case you didn't know. It came about and was formed in 2018 as a merger between three legacy organisations, as we call them: the Equality Challenge Unit, the Higher Education Academy, and the Leadership Foundation for Higher Education, which were all membership organisations by membership. Our members are institutions and organisations rather than individuals. But as I'll explain, fellows are individuals. So it can be a little confusing when we talk about the membership situation. So 2018, Advance HE came along, and our role is to help education, higher education and research to improve, particularly around these four strands of work: equality, governance, leadership and management, and teaching and learning. So we have an amalgam of the services of the legacy organisations coming together to hopefully make something better and bigger and cost effective for our membership. So in membership, so these institutions, they are a lot of them have university title. Some of them are colleges of further education, which provide higher education as well as part of their portfolio. And these include publicly funded institutions and those in the private sector, which are sometimes known in the UK at least as alternative providers. We have 370 in total currently, including 81 outside of the UK. And that's a growing group of members. As you can see from the slide, we have 28 members in Australia, for example, and 14 members in the Republic of Ireland, and a growing number in Thailand. I should say perhaps that if I can't see any questions in the chat, but if you wanted to post any questions, if anybody could read them out to me, I'll deal with them as we go through, or we could talk through them at the end, as you prefer. So institutional members in 80 countries. This kind of rather nice graphic just gives you an idea of where we work. Middle East and North Africa and Southeast Asia, Australasia particularly, but also in North America now too. So we provide support for individuals, for institutions, and at government and ministerial level on country level initiatives, particularly currently in the Ukraine, in India, and a number of countries in the Middle East. So my kind of a little caveat is, I know that some of you are familiar with the Academy, with Advance HE and with Fellowship of the Academy, because looking down the list of members of this network, I see there are people from 16 of our UK members. In fact, all of the UK members who work for universities work for a member organisation. and our two colleagues from, or three colleagues, I think, from institutions in the Republic of Ireland. Those two institutions are also members. But also at an individual level, we have one associate fellow of the Academy, 5 fellows, and 5 senior fellows. So the next few slides, apologies if you already know this, but if you're a senior or a fellow and associate fellow, you probably do. In terms of members in the UK, all of the institutions with university title are members of Advanced HE, with one exception, which I won't go into. So a fellowship of the Academy, you will be familiar probably from your institutions with the post-nominals, which I'll just talk through very briefly on these 2 slides. We have associate fellow, senior fellow, and principal fellow. And fellowship, as it says here, demonstrates a personal and institutional commitment to professionalism in learning and teaching in HE. And the first fellows were appointed, created, bestowed, I think around 2006, if memory serves. And the 4 categories, they're not levels, we don't use the term level here. Associate fellow, as you can see, this is appropriate for those who can provide evidence of effectiveness in a professional role which involves some teaching and or learning support responsibilities. So that could include those supporting PhD students, for example, lab technicians, librarian staff. Fellows are able to evidence a more broadly based and substantive teaching and supporting learning roles with a broad understanding of approaches to learning and teaching support. Senior fellows are, and as I say, we have 5 in the group, are those who can demonstrate not just effective approaches to learning and support, but making a key contribution to high quality student learning. So these are experienced people who are able to demonstrate a real impact and influence on colleagues in their institution. And at Principal Fellow, the category for Principal Fellow are people with a very sustained record of effective strategic leadership. That could be within an institution or external, locally, regionally, or nationally and internationally indeed. Are there any questions coming through so far, or shall I just press on? I'll take that as a press. I'll have a slip of tea. So again, for those of you who don't know, there are 2 ways of achieving fellowship. It can be achieved by through a direct application, which can be done by our portal, My Advanced HE, or it can be done by completing an accredited program, a program of professional development that is accredited by us at Advanced HE. And there are 173 institutions in total accredited, including 27 outside of the United Kingdom. As of the 16th of February, there was a community of 141,000 fellows in 100 countries. That's nearly 142,000 now. Fellowship increases by about 1,000 a month on average. So it's a very broad and widely spread and experienced community of practitioners within learning and teaching. Why do people achieve fellowship? Well, there's all kinds of reasons. It may be, of course, that your institution wants everybody in a teaching role to achieve a fellowship, and institutions see fellowship as a symbol of assurance that the institution is aligned with the professional standards framework, which I'll mention in a second. For individuals, it's an opportunity to demonstrate your commitment to teaching and learning and the student experience. Increasingly, fellowship is part of appointment and promotion criteria, particularly in the UK, but increasingly internationally as well. And it allows individuals to identify their expertise through the use of the postnominals, which I've mentioned. So all kinds of reasons. Some institutions in the UK certainly have a target, for example, of everybody involved in teaching and learning having a fellowship in one of the criteria, one of the categories. Now, there's lots of research and reports into fellowship and the impact of the professional standards framework, which you can look at on our website. But I just found out one quote from a report in 2014 about the process. And this is, we find quite regularly fellows reporting that the process of achieving fellowship can be transformative and encourages a critical approach to teaching. And certainly I found that in the 7 or 8 years I've been involved with fellowship indirectly. This is what people often tell me. It was perhaps sometimes maybe a bit of a chore to achieve and to respond to the criteria and get your application in if you're going the direct route. But many people say that it was a transformative and worthwhile experience for them as individuals. So we have this document, which again you can download from our website, called the UK Professional Standards Framework, which was introduced in 2011. The framework has been adapted for use outside of the UK, particularly in Australasia, for example, where it's obviously they dropped the UK and use Professional Standards Framework. In Australasia, there is also a version which leads to an Indigenous fellowship for those from the Indigenous communities. So it can be adapted and is being adapted externally. What does it cover? It's quite a short document. It doesn't take a long time to read it, but it has 3 dimensions of the framework, which are interrelated: the areas of activity, core knowledge, and values. And these are connected to 4 descriptor statements. So when we talk about descriptors, D1, D2, D3, and D4 is the terminology that's often used, but these relate to fellowship categories. These are basically the core of the PSF there. You can see and you can download those. Let's have a look at a couple of one example. I've just chosen the Associate Fellow, which is descriptor 1, D1. Those people who achieve AFHEA can demonstrate engagement with at least 2 of the areas of activity. They have appropriate core knowledge of at least 2 of the knowledge aspects, K1 and K2. And they have relevant professional practices and successful engagement with professional activity. And they evidence these things through either, as I say, the direct application, which is assessed by a peer review panel, or by completing a program that we accredit. Again, not too much detail here, but just to give you a flavour of what direct applications look like for each of the categories. D1, D2 on these slides, if you're applying directly, you get a flavour for the kind of the word count, the types of supporting statements that you would need in order to support your application, covering work usually over the last 3 years for these 2 descriptors. And for senior and principal fellow, you can see how the weight of words and the numbers of supporting statements and advocate statements, a principal fellow, develop. There's a lot more detail of what these mean in terms of who can make an advocate statement, for example. That has to be a principal fellow, principal fellowship level. These details are all within the website, and you can, if you wanted to dig further into these, you can find them there, or you can ask me and I'll send them to you. So you'll see the kind of progression. They're not levels as such, as I say, but they do reflect people's experience where they are now, and people can move into different categories, different descriptors as they progress in their career and gain experience and gain are able to demonstrate a wider impact outside of their institution, as I say, as they move perhaps from senior fellow to principal fellow. We also manage the national and international awards for teaching excellence. There are two of these. There is the National Teaching Fellowship, and there is the Collaborative Award for Teaching Excellence, and these are for teams. Only members of Advanced HE can nominate people for these annual awards. With the NTF, the National Teaching Fellow, there's a maximum of 55 awarded every year. And a rather swish ceremony is held, or there wasn't last year, but there will be this year, I hope, as we enter the 21st year of the NTF. And again, you can see profiles on our website of all the past NTF winners. I heard a rumor that one of the group was actually an NTF, so I'm not sure if that's the case or whether that person is present, but they're probably far too modest to say. But if you are an NTF, do let me know. I want to talk a little bit about support services that are available within the website to members and to non-members. There is a fellowship category tool, which is basically a kind of a series of questions which helps people to identify where they are likely to be in terms of an application for fellowship. Obviously, the professional standards framework you can download along with the further guidance for writing applications. The specific guidance for particular groups of teachers and support staff, whether if they work in colleges, for example, or as supervising researchers. And the links below, and I'll obviously send these slides around, more on fellowship, the login to My Advanced HE, where you can find all these goodies and apply for your fellowship. And we also have a community called Connect, which has about 200 groups in it. Some are closed and some are open, but you will find in there, for example, a group for principal fellows worldwide, senior fellows, regional groupings, as a kind of a support network, a community, a place to share practice, ask questions. And there are also discipline communities within there for arts and humanities, for STEM subjects. And if you wanted to set up your own community, you don't have to be an institutional member, but you can request for us to set up a group for you on Connect. And there also, if you're members, you can find access to all kinds of resources for members only, including recordings of webinars that we put on in the summer last year to support the transition to online learning, for example. There's a whole wealth of information and resource there. There is also paid for support, which comes extra. We've just launched a new fellowship application builder, which is an online self-directed course with support from a consultant to help people to produce a good application for fellowship, for D2. There is a cost to that, but it's available. There's a discount for people who work for members. We provide writing workshops, reviews of applications, both written and oral reviews. There's a range of conferences, including our STEM conference and our Learning and Teaching conference, bespoke programs, and discounts on purchasing a bulk fellowship from us for a number of applications. Also, I just wanted to mention that we're doing a lot of work to develop support services for PhD scholars and principal investigators, which may be relevant to some of you. We've been working with a large charitable trust in the UK on a program to develop PhD scholars who have an eye for leading in research. It's called our Future Leaders Program, and we're looking at rolling that out to other charitable trusts, member organisations, and so on. And we're also consulting with our research members on developing training for principal investigators specifically. And just finally, I'm not going to go into membership. There are some slides that follow this, which you can investigate if you wanted to, and I don't want to do a sales pitch for membership, but it might be worth mentioning that institutional membership starts at £3,000 per year. Now, because there are discounts for members or staff of members on direct applications and discounts on paid for events, for example, it doesn't take many direct applications to make back that £3,000, for example. So it might be worth considering if you're particularly a non-UK or Republic of Ireland institution that is interested in membership. Again, you can contact me and I can talk more about that. But more specifically around BPS and other, broadly speaking, member organisations, trusts, for example. Member organisations can join as members, and the benefits of membership would apply to their members, even if they don't work for them. Some of your membership will already have access, a lot of them will already have access to member services through their employer. But if they didn't, they could access it if BPS, for example, was a member organisation.